Hello, BookTube. Sorry for the lack of videos the last few days, but I haven't felt all that motivated to make videos. The last few days, most of this week really, have not been particularly pleasant for me. And I just, I'm having a lack of motivation right now. So hopefully I can manage to get this book haul done and one more video today, and hopefully that will spark some interest in making more videos. Excuse me. So far in 2024, I have felt myself leaning towards adding more history and more uh, books in the part of my library that I call classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama, which is a mouthful, and I would like to come up with a better way of saying or of describing that part of my library. Um, but I'm not entirely sure what word to use. So if you have any ideas, let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, so this book haul is um, in addition to my classics, canonical, modern, and contemporary fiction, poetry, and drama shelves. It's composed of two orders. The first part of the book haul I'll show you is the second half of the book haul I showed you last Thursday. I ordered 4 books from Owls through Alibris. Owls is a small um, used bookstore that has a storefront on Alibris. And um, for some reason, this particular order came in 4 packages rather than bundled up together. So I got the second half of that order in. These 2 books are new to me, whereas the first 2 were reacquisitions. The second half of this book haul is from Book People, the great independent bookstore in Austin, Texas. So let's get going. So first up is The Stone Diaries by Carol Shields. I've wanted to read this book for a while. I've heard a lot of great things about Carol Shields. She is a prominent, or she was a prominent Canadian American writer from the um, late 20th century. So let's read the back of the book. Okay. From her calamitous birth in Manitoba in 1905 to her journey with her father to Indiana, throughout her years as a wife, mother, and widow, Daisy Goodwill has struggled to understand her place in her own life. Now she listens, she observes, and through sheer force of imagination, she becomes a witness of her own life, her birth, her death, and the troubling misconnections she discovers in between. With irony and humor, Carol Shields weaves together the poignant story of this 20th century pilgrim in search of herself, and in doing so, she creates a story that is a paradigm of the unsettled decades of our era. The second book from this order is, or technically this would be the fourth now, is Subhuman Redneck by Les Murray. This is a collection of poetry. So Les Murray was a major Australian poet of the um, mid to late 20th century. I first encountered his work through his poetic novel Freddie Neptune, which I read for a class in 2005. Once I first started my interactions with BookTube, one of well, so I hadn't really thought a lot about Les Murray in years until Aussie April. So one of the big-ish booktube events of the year is Aussie April, in which participants read Australian literature in the month of April. There's also one in September called Australia September, which is hosted by Scott of Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. Although I don't know if that one will be making a return uh, this year. But anyway, so I've wanted to participate in Aussie April for years, and I've never managed to. So I thought maybe this will be the year. And in addition to reading fiction, I would also like to read Australian nonfiction and poetry. And that brought up Les Murray, so I picked up this collection of poetry and see what I make of him. Outside of Freddie Neptune, which I don't remember all that fondly. And there are no nothing about the book on the back except for blurbs. So anyway, but I think just the reason why I wanted to read this collection in April. Hopefully I can wait that long. So the next three books are from Book People in Austin, Texas. The first two are by Percival Everett, Erasure and Telephone. Well, I guess I'll talk a bit about Percival Everett first and then talk about each book individually. So, I've heard a lot of great things about Percival Everett over the last few years here on BookTube, and that made me want to read his work. Last year, I read and hated his novel, The Trees, but I didn't want to give up on Percival Everett. I wanted to read something else by him to make sure it was just that one book, or maybe he's just not for me. So I gradually circled around his backlist and settled on either Erasure or Telephone, and I just decided to pick up both. So sometime soonish, I will either get to Erasure or Telephone. So first up, Telephone. Erasure. Thelonious Monk Ellison's writing career has bottomed out. His latest manuscript has been rejected by 17 publishers, which stings all the more because his previous novels have been critically acclaimed. He seethes on the sidelines of the literary establishment as he watches the meteoric success of We's Lives in the Ghetto, a first novel by a woman who once visited some relatives in Harlem for a couple of days. Meanwhile, Monk struggles with real family tragedies. His aged mother is fast succumbing to Alzheimer's, and he still grapples with the reverberations of his father's suicide 7 years before. In his rage and despair, Monk dashes off a novel meant to be an indictment of Juanita May Jenkins' bestseller. He doesn't intend for My Pathology to be published, let alone taken seriously, but it is, under the pseudonym Stagg R. Lee, and soon it becomes the next big thing. How Monk deals with the personal and professional fallout galvanizes this audacious, hysterical, and quietly devastating novel. And Telephone. Zach Wells, a laconic geologist/paleobiologist, has the trappings of a comfortable life, yet is not contented. He's expert in the geological history of a cave in the Grand Canyon, but less so where his wife and daughter are concerned. And when his daughter develops unusual vision problems and has a seizure, the world of this family of three crumbles. Powerless in the face of his daughter's slow deterioration, Wells finds a note asking for help tucked into a jacket he's ordered online, and sets off on a quixotic rescue mission. In Telephone, a deeply affecting novel of loss, grief, and renewal, Percival Everett outdoes even himself. And finally, I also picked up The Good Lord Bird by James McBride. I've long wanted to read James McBride's work, and I decided to grab the opportunity in this particular haul. Henry Shackelford is a young slave living in the Kansas Territory in 1856, a battleground between anti and pro-slavery forces, when legendary abolitionist John Brown arrives. When an argument between Brown and Henry's master turns violent, Henry is forced to leave town, along with Brown, who believes Henry to be a girl and his good luck charm. Over the ensuing months, Henry, whom Brown nicknames Little Onion, conceals his true identity to stay alive. Eventually, Brown sweeps him into the historic raid on Harper's Ferry in 1859, one of the great catalysts for the Civil War. An absorbing mixture of history and imagination, and told with McBride's meticulous eye for detail and character, The Good Lord Bird is both a rousing adventure and a moving exploration of identity and survival. So, let's go move the. So that was my book haul for today. There is one more incoming that will be History from Powell's, the storied independent bookstore in Portland, Oregon. I'm also in a bit of a crossroads as to what I'm going to order next. I have some Christmas money to play with, and I'm not entirely sure what to do with it, which I'll talk about probably whenever I finally use that. But anyway, so let's do a Steve Pyramid. So, The Good Lord Bird by James McBride. Telephone by Percival Everett. Erasure by Percival Everett. I actually think The Good Lord Bird should go on top. Like that. The Stone Diaries by Carol Shields. And Subhuman Redneck by Les Murray. So thank you, BookTube. Hopefully I will see you in a few minutes with my next video. And if not, hopefully I'll be able to do it tomorrow. Because otherwise, my weekly read is going to be... I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with it. But anyway, so until I see you next time, BookTube, thank you. Have a great afternoon and stay warm and safe.